Hi everyone, and welcome to a special edition of In the Driver's Seat. Today we're on location at NADA in New Orleans. Joining us is Amir Colton, Managing Director and Partner at Boston Consulting Group, BCG. Amir is the global lead of BCG's auto and mobility aftermarket, dealers, and retail subsector, and leads BCG's auto AI activity in North America. Amir has significant experience working with OEMs, distributors and importers, suppliers, and dealers on strategic, commercial, go-to-market, and operational topics. Amir, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. So I've read that collaboration and enablement are at the heart of BCG's automotive consulting work, and we know you're very invested in the industry. What would you say are the most significant challenges currently facing dealers?
Yeah. So, look, I mean, it's not a secret that 21, 22, they were great years, right? I mean, on one hand, there were supply shortages, but on the other hand, demand boosted, and then the reality that dealers saw was essentially a big demand gap that led to dealers being able to, really price vehicles a little bit higher than previous years.
Yes.
And we also saw that in M&A activity, right? There were about 700 deals that year, and ever since it's been on a declining trend, but that was definitely the peak. So 21, 22 were great. I think 23 and 24, to a much greater extent, were tougher, and we saw market conditions changing quite a bit. And some would even call this a correction after the 21, 22 years. But definitely dealers are seeing headwinds, and I'll give you some examples.
Yes.
For instance, when you look at new car sales, we see inventories, kind of increasing quite a bit. We see days to sell going up to around 60, which is significant increase versus previous years. And we see OEMs somewhat reacting, cutting a little bit volumes, and more importantly, doubling incentives in 23, 24 compared to 21, 22. And that obviously influenced transaction prices that have generally declined in 23, 24 by about 4%. And that was driven not only by price, but also by mix. So we see decontenting of vehicles and lower trims, and that obviously influences transaction prices as well. Definitely headwinds in new vehicles. Used vehicles, we actually see a pretty significant crunch when it comes to supply. So we see the competition on used inventories growing, and that's manifested in things like acquisition prices. In BCG, we have our annual dealer sentiment survey, and our latest one that we're going to publish in a few weeks. We see that supply of used vehicles, it is number one concern for dealers looking in the next few years. So there's a lot of headwinds there as well. And then last but not least, when we think about customer affordability, we see a decline in that as well. In an inflationary environment with interest rates going up. In our dealer survey, we see that about 40% of the dealers report that influenced demand quite significantly for them. And we see one interesting thing there as well, which is credit score. The average credit score of the buyers is actually an increasing trend, and that implies that in a sense, lower credit score segments are being pushed out of the new vehicle market, which is not a great trend. So definitely something to think about.
Yeah, definitely for the consumer, affordability was something we talked about quite a bit all year. You had the sort of even just the price of the vehicles, the average price going up, the rates going up, sort of a perfect storm of lack of affordability.
That's right.
And like you said, just maybe pushing people out of any sort of access, and then nothing used to even access. Yeah.
And by the way, like one more point on interest rates. That obviously influences the buyers, but also the dealers. Floor planning has went up quite significantly. And about 50% of the dealers in our survey mentioned that it significantly impacted their results in 2024.
Sort of leading up to this interview today, Amir, we've become more familiar with BCG's Auto AI. And, AI itself is a hot topic. It's also a really broad topic that we throw around quite a bit. From where you sit, what areas can AI really make a difference for dealers?
Yeah, being concrete or how AI could actually help dealers I think is the biggest unlock. And I think I'd like to touch on a few things relating to the inhibitors of AI, the inhibiting factors for AI to be implemented with dealers. But I would say this, we have in BCG a team called Auto AI. And Auto AI is a team of data scientists who work only in the automotive space and automotive experts. And what we do is this team essentially partners with our clients, and we build custom AI applications for our clients, right? Many of our clients, when we get in, they have different perceptions about what is AI.
Yes, or they're skeptical.
Exactly.
How is this actually going to affect me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or even, what is it, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And I always tell my clients, think about AI as a super, super smart assistant that can help you make, your biggest decisions. It is an assistant that ingests tons of data, that does calculations really, really fast, and could recommend you how to make your decisions. So things like, what cars should I stock? How should I price? Should I discount? What parts should I stock? How should I price the parts? These are all things that AI can help quite a bit.
Yeah, because you and I were talking about some of those specific Auto AI tools.
Yes.
Some of them are so fascinating. I think one was about inventory as well,
Yes.
right? Just helping dealers decide what to order,
Yes.
I guess, or even how to spec it.
Yes, that's exactly right. So that's an application that we've seen quite popular in the last few years. And as you think about the increase in days to sell, one thing that dealers actually need to do really, really well is make sure that they spec the right vehicles to sell fast. And even more so than selling fast is driving ROI. Right? And at the end of the day, that's what we're doing here. So what we did, and recently we just finished a big project with a large player in the space, and we've built exactly that. So AI, using previous transactions and some external data sources that we bring in, allows dealers to understand what is exactly the spec of vehicles that would drive faster sales. And the AI allows you to actually be very precise in how many days will it take each configuration to sell. And you can even go deeper and say each element, each dimension in the configuration, how will it contribute to selling faster? So, you might have the right trim and the right option set, but if the color is wrong, then it would slow it down.
Yeah.
So really you can optimize this. And we've had great success in driving days to sell, reducing it by up to 30%. So it's huge. And when you think about new cars, that's driving allocations. So new cars growth, that's how you do it. You would see that some configurations are moving really, really fast for one rooftop, but really slow for another.
That's fantastic. So, how would you prioritize AI within a dealership operations? I know, dealers are sort of being inundated, like you said, AI is sort of everywhere. Where should they start, and what kind of ROI can they expect? Short term, long term? What would you say to them?
Yeah. Oh, it's a great question. So when I think about AI, the first thing, and that came up really nicely in our latest dealer sentiment survey, is that 90% of dealers are actually really excited about AI, and are looking to invest and implement AI in their business, which is great news, right? But on the other hand, what we also see is a huge portion of that 90% actually has no good understanding of the ROI.
Yeah.
So that was the number one inhibitor from actually going and implementing AI. So I think the awareness of AI opportunity and the return on investment is kind of the first step. And we help our clients build the AI roadmap to support their business, starting from highest ROI, but not just highest ROI. It's really important that an effort like this is or gets like good alignment in the organization. So it's the combination of high ROI initiatives with fast
Adoption.
or fast time to value.
Yeah.
We call it, right? We want to showcase that this creates value, so we get the organization behind this, and then move on and implement AI or transform the how we do our business with AI. Where to start depends a little bit on the business, but I would say with the current market conditions around everything related to inventory and pricing and the relationship between pricing and days to turn, sometimes we disconnect them, but they're very much connected. What drives ROI is nothing but what price am I selling, what margin is implied in that pricing, and how fast will it turn, which also influences margin because of floor planning and so on, and opportunity cost. So I would say these are the biggest areas that we should focus on immediately.
Amir, I want to ask you one last question before we go. What advice would you give to dealerships looking to ensure that return on investment from AI solutions?
Yeah, it's a really important question. Current market conditions and where this is going, we at BCG feel that dealers don't have the privilege of not doing this. It is going to be a major part of the business. Second thing I'll say is it's hard to do this by yourself, initiate this, and it requires building some capabilities. By the way, it's another thing that came up in the dealer survey. A concern around building capabilities that are not kind of core capabilities, that dealers have nowadays. Nevertheless, it will be important because AI is not your typical, off-the-shelf solutions. And so getting help to kickstart this thing, showing success, showing it fast, help set up the new capability is definitely something that I've seen very valuable, in the work with our clients. In fact, with our clients, we take pride in seeing that we have not just helped them, build their roadmap and then understanding where they want to implement AI. We also help them build kind of the first wave, if you will. But even more importantly, we help them build the capability so that, a few months after we finish, they are already up and running, not only maintaining the solutions we built together, but also innovating and building new solutions. If you do this right, the return on investment, we've seen it between 8 to 10x in the first year.
Wow.
So this is massive.
That is massive.
But it's not easy. It requires a lot of work, not only the technical work of developing the application, but also the change management. And especially with dealers who are not used to using this kind of technology, change management is a big deal. So getting help, making sure focused on the right things, and knowing what the world of opportunities is, that would be my advice to dealers.
Well, thank you again, Amir, and we will see you all next time for In the Driver's Seat.